Chair, and to the ranking member, her suggestion about giving the secretary a megaphone, having grown up with this man, that's not what we want to do. I want to say this before we get started, though. It has been a year, and I'm very proud of the way that this secretary has gotten out of Washington and gone to see the real people. And I'm also proud of this committee. This is the most bipartisan committee that I'm on. And I think this is a model for the rest of the Senate about how to get things done. We don't have all the answers, but we've got a great working relationship, and I thank the ranking member for that. Mr. Secretary, as I look at the U.S. economy, and I know Job 1 is growing the economy, by far the largest opportunity we have is in our ag area in terms of growth and growing jobs and opportunities in the U.S. There are 4 risks that I see right now to doing that. One, we talk about trade, and I've got a question on that if we have time, but the other 3 are a little bit more within our own grasp, and that is water, labor, and infrastructure. Will you talk to us just a little bit about labor? It just seems to me that with the urbanization of America, our state's a perfect example. When you were elected governor, I think over half the state lived south of Atlanta. Today, over 60% live north of Atlanta. And a lot of people have left the agricultural communities, and I know you have a very strong heart for developing rural America, but help us understand H2A and what the Ag Department can and is doing to help us deal with this limiter or this risk for growth in the ag industry.
Thank you, Senator. You've hit on really 3 important things. When we go around, and as we have done, what we hear from you and your colleagues, but mostly your constituents, there are 3 primary issues. Trade, we've talked about. Labor is probably number 2, and regulations number 3. Some of that regulation has to do with water, obviously, but labor is critical. Over half of the American farm workers are foreign-born. It is critical that we have a legal workforce out here. I know that some communities have experienced trouble with ICE coming in, and there's a fear out there. Many of these people have been here over the years, but the H-2A program has been essentially ineffective because it's so onerous and complying with all the rules and regulations. Most smaller producers just give up. There are 2 ways. We've encouraged Congress to look at Chairman Goodlatte's bill on the House. When you all deal with a comprehensive immigration bill, I certainly hope that agricultural labor will be in there. Secondly, while we can't really wait for that, we are working in a regulatory fashion with the Department of Labor, Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of State, the other 3 agencies that have equities in this field, to help to smooth that out. We have been volunteered to be a portal for farmers to apply to get those early things out of the way to qualify themselves for H-2A workers. It really, right now, just doesn't work for farmers, and it needs to be retooled.
Have you engaged with the Department of Labor about the interaction that your 2 agencies could have to streamline H-2A?
On an ongoing basis, and we have one young female attorney who's very knowledgeable in this area. This is her primary function, and we are been very encouraged, frankly, between the White House and a policy coordinating committee that's been assigned to do that. We've had a formal process between those 4 agencies discussing it, and the NEC as well.
You mentioned the successes you've had, or the country's had in China, Argentina, South Korea, and others. I just was in South Korea, and I'm delighted that the week after we were there, we had nothing to do with it, but we have a new FTA, free trade agreement with them, and it's much more level playing field. And thank you for your role in that. Also, I know that the president's first predisposition was to blow NAFTA up, just like it was to back out of NATO, and then we'd get a better deal with NAFTA. I think, I know you had a strong role in convincing him that might not be the best road, and here we are on the cusp, hopefully, of having a true NAFTA deal. I want to talk about India. India is another one of those countries that has some real imbalances here. Pecans, which is the U.S. has 80% of the world's share of production in terms of pecans. They still have a 36% tariff. Are we entering? And by the way, other nuts are only 10% going into India. That is a stubborn topic with those guys. Have we made any progress in that?
We've dispatched Undersecretary McKinney there twice. You've dealt with India yourself. You know, while it's a democracy, it's a very unusually closed society and very difficult to do business there. We think over 1 billion hungry mouths there that would love American food. We're going to take that on as a challenge to try to crack that pecan nut, if you won't mind there. We're going to try to crack that nut to get more products into India. It frankly, historically, has been very difficult. I don't know how successful we'll be, but we're going to continue to knock on the door.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.